What's the most expensive mistake you've ever made? When I was welding 1, screwed up a $65,000 door. 2, may or may not have blown a hole in a $1 million plus missile launching platform. Edit, so people want to know. The $65,000 door was an EMPRF and ballistic door. The damage happened when I was using a die grinder to clear a bit of solder in a tube that ran through the door for some electrical. The bit grabbed and twisted the tubing and ripped it out. No way to fix it other than scrap the door. 2. The launch module I was welding, and on the job site there's a jungle of welding leads running everywhere, close to 20 machines. Well, mine was set good, but my buddy's wasn't. He just traced his leads to a wrong machine and ended up cranking mine up way too hot. While I was mid-weld, I was able to fix said hole and patch it up with no defects or such. Hope that clears things up. Oh, and yes, I'm still a certified welder, just decided to do a career change for other reasons. Had a part-time job as a teenager at a Yamaha dealership that sold dirt bikes, ATVs, motorcycles. I was told one day to deliver a Raptor to some address. Well, I loaded the ATV up on the trailer and took off in the truck down the road. I noticed that the truck was low on gas, so I pulled over and filled her up. I made it about 1.5 miles down the road and the truck started running funny and eventually cut off. I had put gasoline in a diesel truck. I was fired about 4 days later. Not me, but my best mate made a doozy. He was in a bit of a rush to buy himself a car. He had a nice little nest egg of $20,000 put aside just for this purchase. He did a bunch of private inspections around our area, but he just couldn't find one he wanted. He finally stumbled across the perfect car for him. Great mileage, all country driving, full service history, and in excellent condition. The only problem? The buyer was on the other side of the country. For whatever reason my mate decided to contact the dude and organize the purchase. After the money transferred, the ad disappeared, and so did the car owner. I just have no idea what was going through my mate's head. It has been 5 years and they never caught the fraudster and my friend never got his $20,000 back. TL. Doctor, don't ever buy a car without inspecting it, and don't treat private car sales like a drunk Amazon purchase. Freshman year of college, I thought my final exam was at 11:30. It was at 9:30. The exam was 40% of my grade, so I failed. I lost my scholarship and had to pay to retake the class. I bought a business. Turns out I'm not all that great at being a business owner. Losing my father's wedding ring at the beach about 5 years ago. My mum gave it to me when my father passed away, which was 13 years ago. I paid several $1,000s to have the backyard fenced in. 2 months after the job was complete and paid for, a neighbor complained that the fencing was about 2 inches onto his property and that it had to be removed, even though the fencing contractor said it had been done strictly according to a survey he had procured. Turned out the neighbor was correct. By the time it was determined, the fencing contractor had gone out of business. Not me, but a friend trained to be a fireman and the first month on the job, crashed one of the fire trucks. Crashed as in wrecked. He's no longer a fireman. Seriously, wasn't me. Bad time during life and thought buying a new sports car would solve my internal issues. It didn't and I was stuck with a debt. It was sweet to drive, and I loved the looks it got, but it did little to resolve my actual problems. I paid it off and sold it 3 years later for a net $30,000 loss. Edit. Lots of people asking about the car. It was a 2007 Porsche Boxster. I was driving down the street and a woman blew a kiss at me from a bus passing by. I leaned over to my friends to say, "Hey guys, did you just see that?" She blew me a crash. Ran into the little VW Fox in front of me, and then he rammed the Audi in front of him. That sucked. I totally destroyed the VW. Not starting my retirement account 10 years earlier than I did. Bricking every laptop in the company for a day plus, in a place where a lot of people are paid on commission. I don't know how much productivity was lost dollar amount wise, but it was a lot. One time we thought I'd blown up a $500,000 satellite communication system with a power test. My first class, and I had a grand old time going back to fundamentals, tearing down the system, checking everything over, and fixing stuff as we went. Turns out I only blew up the $100K power amp near the dish, which only happened because the prior Red 3 had been really lazy with his weatherproofing. It was a lot of fun. Leasing a 2-story place in Sydney. So cheap. $400 a week. I live with mum who I basically care for. She got heart disease and PTSD. I'd been there 5 months when suddenly the apartment next to us collapsed. Massive gas leak. No one was injured miraculously, but the whole thing made the damn news. Had to avoid TV cameras. Emergency services everywhere. Craziness. I wasn't allowed back into my house for 6 weeks. I had no possessions. Just a few things I could grab on the way out. The government put mum and I in a hotel. I had to buy us clothes, toiletries and general day-to-day things. Mum was stressed as all hell, which isn't good for her. Nightmare time. Had to find us a new house. Finally got access to my possessions to find half of my stuff damaged. They had piled almost everything on top of each other. My bed was stacked on the couch right on top of my laptop. Couch was ripped beyond repair. Rain had spilled through opened windows in our absence, damaging linen, electrical appliances, etc. Some absolute duckwit had stolen a watch Grandad had given mum. It was nowhere to be seen. Worst of all, my nan's ashes were gone. Lost half of my possessions, pretty much. Devastating financially and emotionally. If I could turn back time, I would have spat on that ducking lease. Now 18 months later, I get a call from a credit agency telling me about a massive charge that got sent to them by Energy Australia. The duckers charged me for all the gas that leaked that night. Unbelievable. $100K on 2 degrees. First was $60K and was basically useless due to a combo of the job market when I graduated, 5 people per 1 job, and not working while taking classes. Second was $30K more and $10K in interest since the old ones were deferred too long. Then I found out, as I'm about to graduate, that the state can cover my tuition as part of rehab job training due to disability. I finally got a real career-oriented job in my field. And 9 months in, my vision deteriorated to the point I'm on long-term disability and no job. Grabbed the wrong briefcase from my office while I was rushing to the airport. It had a loaded while the P99 in it. $5,000 fine from that SAP, but it was bumped down to $3,000 because I paid within 30 days. Really stupid of me to say the least. I was traveling across the states with my friends and 6 days in we got to Miami. We got drunk in Wet Willie's and met a couple girls, and we decided at 3 AM it was a good idea to go skinny dipping. We all got naked and ran into the sea, leaving everything on the beach. We got out of the sea after ducking around for a while, and someone had stolen all our stuff. They took everything. I lost my wallet with $300 in it, my iPhone, my passport, and not to mention all of my clothes. We all had to run back to our hostel naked, which was a good mile away. Still got laid, but I'm an idiot. Married my college girlfriend. Turns out the things you look for in a woman at 19 get old as hell at 35. She was a stay-at-home mom who didn't want a mother. So I bit the bullet and left with my daughter. Cost me well over $700,000 and counting. But I have my kid and she's worth every penny. Taking my eyes off the road, just for a second, to look at a pretty girl. Rear-ended the car in front of me. We weren't going fast and the damage was minimal, but it was a lease car, so there was no chance of "nah man, don't worry about it." By the time my insurance rates go back down to where they were before the accident, that little peak will have cost me many thousands of dollars. I accidentally left an Asiatic lily plant out in my apartment when I went to work. When I came home, I noticed my cat had chewed a bunch of leaves off of it and possibly swallowed some. I immediately looked it up online and saw that lilies are extremely toxic to cats. They can cause kidney failure from ingesting only a small amount. I had to rush him to a 24-hour emergency vet where he had to be treated with high volumes of fluid via for 48 hours. My big floof made it out alive, and I couldn't have been happier he was okay, but the whole ordeal cost me close to $3,000. I just paid the $3K vet bill on a friend's cat. Slightly less than 3k when all was said and done, but they weren't even going to look at him without 3k as a deposit. Urinary tract blockage. He was going to die that night without help, and they had to keep him a few days. I'm far from rich, but I had it at the time and I adore that little dope, and he means the world to my friend. She's paycheek to paycheek, and would have been crushed if he died over money. Maybe a day will come when I really wish I had that 3k back, but I don't regret it at all for the moment. Feels good to have done a good thing for them. Nicked a hard drive that had a Bitcoin wallet with around 30 Bitcoins on it, which would be worth around $120,000 today. Cries while looking at my bank account with $27.03 in it. I was on a canoe trip down a river with a number of large rapids, and I'd forget to make sure my backpack was closed and stuffed in the boat so if we flipped it wouldn't float away. Anyway, the other person in my boat said we shouldn't run it with gear, but I said we'd be fine and he relented. We flip and my bag goes floating down the river with about $200 worth of gear in it. The worst part is my wallet was in that bag with most of mine. Whoops. Not me, but a guy I knew during college decided he was fed up with all of the work we had to do at school and quit. When we were already done with 34 of our time at school, he also quit the coffee shop job we happened to work at together randomly a little bit later. I was graduated less than a year later and fortunately found a job right out of school. He nearly lost his apartment, got another job at a different coffee shop, and still had to deal with all the college loans he'd already taken out. Edit. Well damn, this got a lot more attention than I was expecting. I should probably clarify that I don't think that dropping out is never a valid option. It is in some cases, but in this situation, I believe it was a huge mistake on his part. Mr. £8 road tax payment on a motorbike that was stolen. I also moved address, so never got a single letter. It tallied up to nearly £8,000 after 7 years of me not paying it. £25 per letter plus £15 admin fee plus a monthly, then weekly, and finally it went to a daily penalty. It was almost the most expensive mistake. I got away with paying only the £48 for first letter plus admin fee plus the outstanding balance of £8. I went to a boarding school for high school. $42k a year. It was extremely abusive and really should not have been accredited. That first credit card, that free money started a spending spree. 14 years later still trying to get out of that hole. Edit. To clarify, one card became two became more. Between college, living on my own, and having a new girlfriend, I boned myself royally. Paid most of it off, but then picked up a little more debt a couple years ago due to hard times. My credit score is still being rebuilt. Chipped a star facet on a 2-quart princess cut diamond while setting it. Fortunately, the stone was recut and only lost a little value. Original customer got a replacement stone, and the recut stone eventually sold, so the loss wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it would be. About 10 years ago I got a part-time job that miraculously offered health insurance. Unfortunately, the paperwork they gave me when I started only listed the insurance rates for full-time employees, something like $60 a paycheck. I didn't even realize there would be a difference for me until I got my first paycheck and it totaled about $20. I called hours in panic mode, certain that there must be some mistake, only to be informed that for the number of hours I was working, health insurance was $400 per paycheck. And no, I couldn't cancel my enrollment unless I had a qualifying life event. I took home $20 paychecks for 4 months until open enrollment, when I could finally cancel. Luckily I had another job at the time, so I wasn't out on the street, but it certainly taught me a lesson about carefully reading paperwork. College. I borrowed so much for tuition and went to the wrong school, and there were so many clues that I was at the wrong school the first semester, but I chose to ignore those clues and stayed 4 years. I changed my major too late into my program. I just made a lot of bad choices. Now I have a lot of debt that will prevent me from probably ever owning a house. So learn from me. Pay attention to the signs around you. If you don't feel like the school is right for you, don't stay. And don't borrow your way through school. Scholarships are available. Listen to your gut. I wish I had. Oh, I also threw away $1 million game piece because I thought it was too obvious to be a winner. It was in the early 90s and would have totally paid for college. I was so pissed at myself. Now I keep all of those stupid game pieces until well after the games are over. I had 75 bitcoins a few years ago. Sold them all off at about $100 CAD each. I could sell them for 50 times that much now, pay off my house and all other debts, and put away a bit of savings. I still gnash my teeth about that. Edit, typo. I had a little under 9,000 in 2010. Cashed them out to buy a new PC. Lol, rip my Lambo. That's like 30 meters. Tough. Not checking what my company insurance covered when I started working. Began working in June 16th and signed up for our core plan, which covered general medical but not dental. You can change your coverage options, 1. when you start working, and 2. at the change of the new year. First dentist appointment cost $200, but that's just the beginning. After seeing this bill, I made sure to change my coverage to include dental at the start of 2017. Fast forward to April, when I find out my wisdom teeth need to come out. Now the procedure could have waited, but there are growing cysts in my bottom wisdom teeth that could cause nerve damage if not addressed soon. I've gotten 2 x-rays and they have grown rapidly since April. Turns out my insurance covers half of the procedure. Great. But there's a 1-year exclusion. Meaning they don't begin covering wisdom teeth removal until 1 year after you've signed up for the coverage. Would begin January 1st, 2018. Could have paid $1,500, but paying $3,000 out of pocket now. Being in a long-term long-distance relationship throughout college. Didn't waste 5 years, but I didn't do anything. Literally sat in my room playing video games. Ex didn't want me to hang out with anyone. Her insecurities kept me from doing things I wanted to do, or discovering things I wanted to do. Many more things, but it turned out to be for nothing when she cheated.